Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to the 22 December Town of Hampton Selectmen's Meeting. Roman 1 is public comment period, and in the last couple of weeks it's become interactive. It's gone over the 4 minutes, it's gone 5, it's gone 6 minutes, it's been 4 minutes, and we're going to keep the 4 minutes. And again, it's not interactive, and if there are important agenda items, we'll put them on the agenda for full discussion. Those that wish public comment tonight, please take the podium. Thank you.
So if I prepared for 5, I'm dead. Unfair. I'll get a picket sign out next week, which you're not meeting. It won't be a silent night tonight at the public comment podium. It's a special week, and this town was founded by a Christian band under Reverend Stephen Batchelor back 376 years ago. And the First Congregational Society has maintained their presence in the town through a few bumps over the centuries. They're now in their 6th meeting house, 165 years old, with a Webster Chapel on the east, 50 years younger. Back in 1948, 66 years ago, a new church opened in town, Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal Church. They didn't have a 1 in their name, but they were on Route 1. And they fulfilled the St. Patrick Church obligations for area Catholics that St. Patrick's had done for many a year, even building a chapel with heat in 1937. St. Patrick's was 100 years old last year. Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal is 66 years old this year. It opened New Year's Eve, midnight mass, with a full house of 500. And Father Leo Ryan of the Cathedral in Manchester was the main celebrant. The church had been built in 6 months on land of Christopher Toppin, the dairy farmer across the road. It was bare bones, no stained glass windows, except for one round one over the altar. And the founding pastor, Matthew Casey, was not named for another week by the Right Reverend Matthew Brady, Bishop of Manchester, because he was finishing up in Lincoln, New Hampshire, St. Joseph Church, finishing Advent. He was named the first week of January to be effective 22 January 1949 and served for 22 years, becoming a senior priest in 1966, named by the Pope as a Monsignor, which was an honor also of the parish that he had grown into Sacred Heart School in 63, a convent for the teaching nuns of Sisters of Mercy, and a rectory, which was at first various places in town. And since then, many things have changed. At first, there was no shrubbery or statue of Our Lady in front that in recent years Dan Furden donated in memory of his parents. There was no bell tower or carillon cupola on the side. No playground, no athletic fields, no gymnasium. But he grew all these things because he was a hard-nosed former military, chaplain in World War II,
Pardon me,
Major.
Point of order, so you're almost at 4 minutes. Thank you.
Father Casey served for 22 years and grew the parish into 1,400 families. That's my Hampton history homily for tonight. Happy Christmas to all from this pulpit, podium, and good night.
Merry Christmas, Art.
Thank you, Arthur.
Further public comment? Sir?
Hi, my name is Frank Shimatara, and I live at 320 Lock Road in Rye, New Hampshire. However, I own 5 Stowcroft Drive in Hampton and lots 25 and 26 Westridge Drive in Hampton. And I understand that, not this evening obviously, but before the selectmen, there is a petition to lay out on Stowcroft Drive of a new subdivision. And I came here to present you with a correspondence for obviously your later consideration, because it's my understanding that the board at some point in the future will be making a determination as to if it is even appropriate for this board to even entertain that petition to lay out. As what we perceive to be as the owner of Parcel B, we do not believe that it's appropriate for the board to even take up that petition and to consider that petition. And I'll read briefly from an opinion that we had formulated by our attorney. We've given several opinions to the town council in the past and the planning board, and then I'll hand you the correspondence to keep for future reference and consideration of time limits. This firm represents Frank J. Shimataro Jr., trustee of the GT Revocable Trust, and Amy Shimataro, who own abutting property on lots 25 and 26 Westridge Drive in Hampton. For the reasons outlined below, we believe the Board of Selectmen does not have the authority, with all due respect, to act upon the Graves petition. The law is stated, but I'm not going to bother to read that. The Graves petition asks the Selectmen to lay out a road over a property referred to as Parcel B, also identified as Hampton Tax Map 41-3/B. There is no question that Lot B is not an existing private right-of-way, nor is it an existing Class 6 highway. In fact, Lot B is an undeveloped, privately owned piece of property that has never been used as a roadway, private or public, nor has it ever been subject to any easement that would authorize any party to use it for access or egress or any other purpose. Thus, the Hampton Board of Selectmen, we believe, do not have the legal authority or jurisdiction to act on the Graves petition to lay out. It is contrary to the provisions of the statute to which we have referenced previously. The ownership of Lot B and the use rights associated with it would need to be adjudicated by a court of competent jurisdiction before the Selectmen could act upon any petition to lay out a road across Lot B. And therefore, it is our position that the Planning Board nor the Selectmen are the appropriate body to determine the use or the ownership of any piece of property. We believe Superior Court is the only venue that that's appropriate, to which we've heard that echoed several times throughout all of the hearings. I do thank you for your consideration this evening, and I will give you this correspondence.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much, sir.
Frank.
Appreciate it. Further public comment this evening? Seeing none. So, announcements and community calendars. Selectman Wilson.
Since it is the Christmas season, I would like to thank my fellow members of the board and the manager and the assistant manager and all of our employees for their courtesy and their hard work all year long. And I would very much like to thank individual members of the public who are kind enough to do, I guess, what they do for all of us, to stop me and tell me what's going on and tell me what concerns them and tell me what improvements they'd like to see made and complain. And it helps me very much, and I'm sure it helps my colleagues to do this job the way it should be done. So I want to say Merry Christmas to all of you, Happy New Year, and I'm proud to live in Hampton.
Thank you. Sir.
Yeah, I just would like to wish everybody a joyous holiday season and a healthy one for everybody. Thank you.
I think we're all going to do the same thing. I'd like to wish everybody a very happy and Merry Christmas, rest of the holidays, whichever one you choose to use, and also have a safe and happy New Year.
Thank you, sir.
Same thing. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays to everybody. And I'll just reiterate what Rusty said. Very important to have a safe holiday. Keep it safe.
Thank you. Mr. Welch, any announcements? Again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to the denizens of the greatest community in the greatest state and the greatest country in the world, period. It's been a pleasure to work with this board and represent the town. A community note and announcement is that the Board of Selectmen, its leaders, have been in discussions with the Hampton Fire Department Supervisors Association, Local 3017, and the Hampton Firefighters Local 2664, affiliated with the IAFF-AFL-CIO. Those discussions have been fruitful. We've discussed the net results of those tonight, and there's been a unanimous approval of that TA, that tentative agreement. And we are simply waiting for the exact verbiage to come back, and upon receipt of that, that will be signed and approved enthusiastically and unanimously by the board. And we appreciate the good work the fire department does. They're represented here tonight. Skipper, well done. Thank you. Do you have any comments? Okay, thank you, sir. Consent agenda, Roman 3.
I will so move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
And I'm delighted to have Tina Baker volunteer. She's a wonderful, qualified woman, and I think it would be marvelous to have her on board.
We've got a motion, we've got a second.
Second.
So, something about unanimous. Thank you. Roman 4, approval of minutes.
Also move the minutes of December 8th. No?
There's a couple of corrections in them. Representative Randy Cushing.
Rennie.
Yeah, no, it says Randy.
Oh.
I think he'd want his name.
Oh. Fine.
So if you can just look there, I think that's just one spelling, a couple of spellings on that. Mary Louise missed it. I'm feeling good.
Okay, and would you second her motion?
Yes, I will.
All right.
Further discussion, seeing none.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
the staff has given me this note that there's to be a correction of the minutes of December 8th under the correction of the minutes for November 3rd. Correction of the November 8th minutes, page 1, second paragraph, third line, change of November 1, 2014 to December 8th, 2014.
Do you think that
The
will?
dates are wrong.
Do you think that will end it?
I hope so.
Okay, thank you. Incorporating that into the motion and the second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, sir. Roman 5 appointments. 1, Christy Pulliam, Finance Director, Alpha, monthly financials, Bravo, fixed assets policy, Director.
Good evening. Good evening, Christy.
All right. I'll start with our December financials. You guys got these back a couple weeks back now. So hopefully everyone still has them handy. It's the 11th report for 2014, and the expenditure target is 91.67%. The month's total income was $398,000. Motor vehicles came in at $215,000, which now puts motor vehicles $299,000 above budget. The other major contributors to the month's total were building permits at $11,000, franchise fees at $64,000, departmental income at $36,000, interest on taxes at $12,000, real estate trust at $39,000, parking lot revenue $3,000, miscellaneous state grants at $4,000, and land use change at $10,000. Also, I'll just add right there that we did receive the check from the state today for rooms and meals tax. So they sent it before the 31st. It came in today.
Good.
And it was in the amount of $722,150.02. So that came in today. The expense summary at the end of November, the operating departments without debt service but with open POs were 89.43% of the budget, which is lower by $511,000 than the month's target. Finance, the postage, and the registry of deed counts are both now running over budget. Management information system, the 4 equipment-related accounts have a combined budget of $81,000, and through November they are at 78.15% of the budget for those items. Personnel administration is within the target. Planning board is running over, but when you combine that with the Office of Planning, they are within the budget at 79.4%. Municipal insurance continues to run over budget. The police department is at 89.3% overall when the open POs are included. Fire department is at 85.3% with the open POs included. In public works, highways and streets is running slightly below target at 87.8 with the open POs. Municipal sanitation is now running under budget at 89.8, and that includes the 30,000 annual PO for chemicals is included in that total. Parks and recreation is within the target. The warrant articles, the cost for the 8th of the 9 months relating to CPAs was booked. And at the bottom of page 15, the 2013 encumbrances, there was still open some at the date of that report. However, they have all been closed now. So there's nothing left open for 2013 encumbrances. They're all closed and gone.
Bless you.
So that is taken care of. In the special revenue funds, Fund 24, the recreation, the beach sticker donations, year to date equal $18,000, and $26,000 has been awarded in scholarships from those. The cable committee, Fund 25, the current fund balance is below last year's ending total, and there was nothing exciting for private detail or EMS, so we'll leave that at that for the monthly financials. I don't know if anyone has any questions on those.
Are we going to assign the fund number to the sewer buy-in charge? Do you know? Because wasn't that supposed to be a fund, Fred? For
Yeah.
Goes to the treasurer.
Yep, the treasurer
but I
had to
mean-
open up another account for that, similar to impact fees,
Yeah.
and it's $55,093.
I was just thinking where we have the recreation fund, cable fund, whatever.
Oh, would you like me to add that there?
Would that be
No, we do that.
agreeable, Fred?
I
I
can.
think it would be nice, so we don't
Okay.
have to keep bugging you every time you come
Okay,
in.
so I can add that after all of the funds.
I've got a couple
the-
of other,
for access.
just for the public's understanding, because we have a copy of the education tax warrant for the tax year 2015. Would you just explain very briefly to the public the impact of that? It's for $6,769,141.
It's collected from the utilities.
The education tax? Collect?
Utilities are billed for education tax from the state.
Okay.
And they're not billed through the town. We don't collect utility taxes for education through the town.
Okay.
That money is collected by the state. They issue a warrant. I don't know how that relates to the amount of money they want,
Oh,
given the
okay.
valuations of the utilities. but
Okay.
That's what they send out every year.
Thank you for the clarification, because I was a little puzzled by that.
No, we're not going to pay them that money.
Well, yeah, Christy, do you think there'll be enough? I was looking at page 9, the fire department. Do you think we'll have enough for the 25,000 for the lights, so we don't have to put that in as a special money article? I think I was on page 9.
I have been collecting items like that, and Fred and I are planning to review those later this week, the beginning of next week,
Okay.
to see. Right now, we're running close. We're right about a half of 515,000 or so left.
Okay.
That's as of, ran the numbers again at the end of, not last week, but the week before, so. I still have to put last week's, and then there's 2 more weeks this year, so
Yeah.
we still have to.
I was just trying to
process
squeeze out
through.
that 25,000.
It is in the pile.
Okay. And that will do it, I think. Thank you. Very nice job.
So,
Thank you for your report.
All set, thank you.
Thanks for speaking slowly.
I tried.
You always do that, that's nicely.
I've been trying to slow it down.
Everything in the overall, I mean, I always like to look at the big picture. Looks like we're gonna end the year nicely. No big problems, nothing.
No
Probably
snow?
better not to say that, huh?
Yeah,
until
no
the end.
snow.
Yeah.
I haven't seen too much snow in the forecast I've been watching, so.
Yeah.
It's looking good. Rain, yeah, it's kind of messy out there tonight.
Oh, yeah, good then, thank you.
So.
So we don't just plow the rain.
Yeah.
Great.
thank you, Director. Bravo, fixed assets policy.
Mike had started a fixed asset policy when he was here. I have reviewed it. I have made a few changes. I collected fixed asset policies from several other communities. And I have run this policy by the town manager along with our auditors, Plodsick and Sanderson. This is one of the pieces in being compliant under GASB 34. You have to have a fixed asset policy in place prior to collecting all of the data and presenting that to them. So with this policy, if the board chooses to adopt it along with the work that my department has done to collect all of the information, put it into our software, I'm hoping and praying that when the auditors come that adverse opinion in regards to GASB 34 should be removed according to what I have spoken with them so far about. So if we could just get this adopted by the board, we should be in pretty good shape to move forward with being compliant with GASB 34.
Good. Are you accepting a motion, or do you want to?
Yeah, questions go around and you can make a motion.
Okay. I have no questions. I read it, and it's fine.
All set.
I read it and I'm fine with it.
Also move that we adopt now, technically, what am I,
It's the Town of Hampton fixed asset policy.
Town of Hampton fixed asset policy. Thank you.
Second.
Second by Waddell, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you,
I have a
Director.
couple other
Uh-oh.
things that I gave to you guys on Friday. The overruns of some of the budget line items that were submitted to you guys. Most of them, 2 of them are already over, which we already knew. The fire hydrants
Yeah.
is over budget, and the patriotic purposes, they've been running over budget, I think, since May. There are a couple other line items that are fairly close. Doesn't mean that they will run over budget, but it is required that the board take a vote in regards to any overruns that could occur. So I took Mike's example from last year, came up with what our best guess is at this point, and have put that forward in front of you last week. And I think Fred said that a motion would need to be taken in regards to that, or just given to them, Fred?
There should be a motion taken, and the board should understand that this is subject to amendment at the time the books are closed. Should be sometime in January.
And this is for municipal budget line item overruns, is that correct?
It's a statute requirement for line item overruns.
Okay, and since your name's on this, you just want to brief that so the public knows what we're talking
I got
about?
one.
You got one? Just the line number and the amounts.
Line number 4130, executive, 99.32%, we expect it to run over. 4150, financial administration, 95.1%. Line item 4155, personnel administration, 96.98%. Line item 4196, municipal insurance, 99.09%. Line item 4299, other safety services, 103.41%. And line item 4583, patriotic purposes, 110.16%. We expect by estimate that those will all exceed, except the last 2 already exceeded, the 100% level at the end of the year.
Questions on this issue, Selectman?
No.
Questions?
And just clarification, if they do run over, we take the money from to,
It's the bottom line of the town budget that's required not to run over, and we have sufficient funds there to make sure that we have no problem at this point.
okay, so there's no problem if,
Yeah, and just to, if I can answer that question, that has been addressed by town council, that has been vetted through, and is in accordance with the New Hampshire Municipal Association and New Hampshire State Law.
Yeah, and that was all attached in the back
Yeah,
here,
I saw that, yeah.
so that
I
you
just wanted
can
to-
see that.
Just one quick observation, for purposes of the Budget Committee's review, I would like to see the overruns shown on the lines, because all we're responsible for is the bottom line of the budget. I'd like the Budget Committee to be able to see what went over and what stayed under.
And that's
They
how
will.
we've been that's why we're making sure everyone is charging things to the proper line items, even if
Right.
it's going to overrun that
Good.
section.
Good.
We've been trying to incur.
Thank you. A motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second Jim.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
And the last but not least, I'm told that I must bring to you guys, once again, this is subject to end of year closing, but I have presented on Friday to you guys the analysis of the open POs, along with any warrant articles that can be carried forward from the 14, and there's a couple from the 13 warrant. So I provided that to you guys last week, and it looks like it's a total of $179,741 in purchase orders as of right now, and $994,719 in regards to warrant articles. I can list out the warrant articles if you guys would like me to. And I also have some highlighted purchase orders. I can go through those if the board wishes me to for the public.
I think it would be good.
Okay. The warrant articles, there's a wastewater treatment facility study, which was a 2013 warrant article number 10. There was also the wastewater I&I study, article number 9 from 2013, and the Parks and Recreation Infrastructure, which was in regards to the garage at Tuck Field. That was article number 24 from 2012. I was looking for Diana today, because I believe that one will probably be closed prior to me coming back to you guys again in the middle of January, but Fred and I didn't want to close it out without talking to Diana first,
Good.
and she wasn't available, so it's on your sheet, but I'm thinking it'll probably go away. Some of the purchase orders that are larger, that are out there right now, there's two for IT, one for data recovery, and one for the Sonic Wall upgrade. Those two together are about 14 or 15,000. PD has a couple out there, one for ammo at 12,720, and one for air conditioner compressor repairs for 6,000. The fire department has a couple out there, one for vehicle repairs and another for the Acorn recording system. That's about $12,000. DPW has some vehicle repairs, a plow wing, salt, chemicals, and theirs total about 60 plus thousand for those ones. So those are just kind of like the highlight. And I did provide it to each of you. Behind it, I gave you the open purchase order list. So like I said, this is subject to change. I was looking back, and Mike came in about the middle of January with his final list of this for you guys, but this is what it is as of Friday when Fred and I were working on it.
Excellent.
So,
Yeah, and that was a great report, great data. Any questions on this,
No,
Selectman Wilson?
thank you.
Thank you.
Nope, great as always.
Anything else to it?
I don't think so. Does they need a motion on that one too, Fred, or just to bring it to their attention?
At this point, just need to bring it to
Okay.
their attention till we close the actual
Yeah.
books.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Director.
I guess I'm done. Have a good holiday, everyone.
Merry
You
Christmas.
too. Merry
Good night.
Christmas.
Roman 5 appointments. 2, Acting Fire Chief Ayod, Alpha waiver from purchasing policy 718-16, sole source provider, cardiac monitors. The number of them is 4. Sir, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to sit in front of you this evening, and may the peace of the season be with you all. Before I begin on talking about the monitors, I would like to thank the town of Hampton, the businesses, and the generosity of the citizens. This year, our Hampton Firefighters Toy Bank has had a banner year. They are going to be helping 65 Hampton families Specifically, 171 Hampton children will be receiving Christmas presents that otherwise wouldn't. Firefighters Buck Frost and Matt Cray have done the lead roles, and they've done a tremendous job, but it wouldn't be possible without generosity from the town of Hampton, so thank you very much. Tonight I come before you with Captain Kennedy to request a waiver from the purchasing policy. We are looking to sole source the purchase of cardiac monitors. Did you receive all of the backstory on cardiac monitors and why they're important? Generally speaking, this is one of the most apropos life-saving pieces of equipment we carry on the ambulance. I come to you at an opportune time because we have just taken another one out of service. In your packet, there's the 2009 biphasic monitor, which has been labeled the newer one. It was taken out of service because it's no longer functioning as far as transmitting. So we're down to 3 plus 1 on the engine. We have had a committee get together and discuss what they wanted. They looked at the top 3 competitors in the field, and then they did due diligence, did a lot of research on it. We invited in these top 3 competitors, and they all showed their wares. We had them give us price quotes. The company that we seek to go with is Zoll, and Zoll was by far the superior product in our opinion, and they also came in at the lowest price point. However, if we went out to public bid, we wouldn't be able to get a end-of-the-year deal that we're getting right now if we're able. They'll accept as trade-in the 4 monitors that we currently have at a price of $9,600 per monitor. The monitor company that currently has the technology and that we're currently using will only give us $1,000 trade-in per monitor. It's a significant deal based on this. End of the year, and everybody likes to have a deal. They really do. But we are not compromising on quality here. We feel that this is the best product. So we come to you to ask for that waiver so that we can sole source to Zoll.
Thank you, Selectman Wilson.
I have no problem. I read the material. What, Jamie, I have to ask you, that device, is that?
AED, yep.
Is that?
That is not what we're purchasing.
Not what you're
That's an
purchasing.
automatic external defibrillator.
Okay.
So it basically walks you through the process.
Okay.
The ones that we're looking for have a feature that's AED, but it's also manual, and it lets the provider choose what they need to do. It also allows you to do a 12-lead EKG, which you might have had at the physician's office or whatever it might be, and then we transmit it to the hospital. So a lot of decisions are made in the ambulance on that, and then we transmit it to the doctors and to the cardiac cath team, especially if they're going to be calling people in from home to do surgery or whatever it might be. They get a copy of that directly delivered to the hospital.
So this is strictly for the firefighters' use?
This
The
correct? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
We're going to put 3 in the ambulances and 1 on an engine, the paramedic engine.
Great.
So they're all going direct into use.
Conceivably, we might need more in the future? I'm just,
Currently, we have the need for 5. I feel very comfortable that we're able to cover the cost for 4.
all right.
In the future, I think that it would be prudent to replace 2 very old pieces of equipment that were purchased 20 years ago. But I believe that having our frontline ambulances and the paramedic engine with the equipment necessary, we'll get through until we're able to purchase it again.
You weren't thinking of putting the old ones on the 88 pumper?
No. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
I'm prepared to move that we adopt this after the discussion.
Selectman Griffin.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you, sir.
Looks like some of these life packs are 13 years old, 12 years old.
Almost 15, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when they were purchased, and they were the top of the line. I also know that the Zoll product, and the Zoll product is a very fine product, and if you've done their due diligence, which it sounds like they have, in doing the search for the best product, I think we should go forward.
Yeah, I was impressed with the little package put together, but also that I think it's important for the public to realize how many times you've used this, the 3,080 times.
Sure, cardiac monitors.
Yeah.
Yep. And we've used that. I do believe that I went back to 2011 for those numbers
Yeah.
for you, right? So a little over 3,000 times. 1 in 3 patients gets a cardiac monitor. Not everybody gets a defibrillator, okay? But 1 in 3 patients gets a cardiac monitor. So there's things that we saw, and we've talked about WEMA, medical aids. People come to the fire station and they need a Band-Aid. They don't need a cardiac monitor. But people who are having chest pain or respiratory difficulty or cardiac arrest, they need a cardiac monitor. Thank you very much for the props on the packet, but that was firefighter Nate Denio, who had done so much work behind the scenes and all the legwork in getting this accomplished. We had a whole committee together. Collectively, I believe we came up, we're a little over 100 years experience in EMS that was on this committee out of 6 members, and to a man, everybody in the room said that this was the best product.
Yeah.
Bar none.
Yeah, and also when you say that you're getting a much better deal on the
Certainly.
trade-in.
Absolutely. without question.
So, I mean, with that, you're saving money and you're buying the best product.
There's another component, too, that Zoll did two other things that no other competitor did. One, they're going to give us an extensive training component to this. They want us to feel competent with these monitors because they're new. They're totally different technology. They're based on military, and it's different than what we're used to. So they said that if it takes 2 weeks every day for us to be there, then we'll be there 2 weeks every day. They also are the only competitor that we interviewed that said if there was a problem in any way, shape, or form, they would give us a loaner device immediately. And they're in Chelmsford, so they're a drive away. No other competitor said that, and one of them is actually in Redmond, Washington, so the shipping and the cost that would have to go along with that, it would be not comparable.
Thank you. My comments are, your first paragraph is that this will be funded through the Emergency Medical Services Special Revenue Account, and it will have no impact to the fire department municipal budget. Is that correct?
That is correct.
It's a great package, great information. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bridle. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, very nice job.
Good job.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Thank
Christmas
you.
to you guys.
Merry Christmas, Skipper.
The technology is changing so fast.
Roman 5 appointments. Number 3, Stephen Ells, Esquire, Richardson Real Estate Investments, LLC, 376 Winnicott Road Subdivision. 1, request for acceptance of sewer easement located on Lot 5, and other matters relating to a decision by the Board of Selectmen, and Attorney Gerald is in the house.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This appointment is to consider several aspects of the subdivision that was approved in October by the Planning Board. There are certain facets to this matter that can only be approved by the Selectmen. One has to do with acceptance of a sewer easement deed, which is part of this subdivision. The second has to do with streetlights, and the third has to do with fire hydrants. The last two items involve an expenditure of public funds, if accepted, and this board is the board to come for that. I would say that a more efficient way to go about this would be for this board to be approached and get its assent to all of these items before the planning board acts. The manager has approached the planning board about doing this. Hopefully this is the last time we go through this particular procedure in this fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The floor is yours, Mr. Ells.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I am Steve Ells, and I appear this evening on behalf of Susan Scott, who's seated in the first row, who's the current owner of 376 Winnicott Road. And we also have Richard Green of Richardson Real Estate Investments, LLC, the developer, and Henry Boyd from Millennium Engineering, who did the engineering and survey work for the project. The project is, of course, the Scott home at 376 Winnicott Road, which has gone through the Professional Review Committee, the Conservation Committee, and the Planning Board. And at this point has received conditional approval for a 10-lot subdivision. One of those conditions is the granting of a sewer easement to the town, and the developer is certainly willing to do so and has provided a proposed deed to the town. As Mark indicated, the Board of Selectmen is the only body that can accept a grant of a gift of land or a grant of land. So it's for that purpose that we're here this evening. The easement will run from the cul-de-sac that will be constructed to the north end of the proposed subdivision in a northerly direction, and will tie into the long existing sewer main which crosses the Scott property in an east-west direction. Chris Jacobs of the Department of Public Works has asked that the town be provided not only with a sewer easement, but he also said that the town would like to have an access easement so that his men and equipment could access the large existing sewer transmission line to the rear of the property. To do this, we'll have to, the developer will have to use some fairly stable materials once they bury the new sewer easement pipe have to use some fairly stable materials which will support the heavy vehicles that the town will need to occasionally drive over this access easement. And the developer is perfectly willing to do that and has agreed to construct the easement in such a manner that it will be sufficient to allow heavy equipment to travel over it. We've also agreed, at the suggestion of Mark and Chris, to include as a covenant in the deed to Lot 5 being the lot that will be affected by this easement, that the homeowner will be required to mow this 20-foot wide easement and to not plant trees or bushes or place or construct any structure within the bounds of the easement so that there'd be a problem with the town using it when and if they needed to. And those are all perfectly reasonable conditions. Chris and Mark and I have exchanged draft deeds, and I believe we're in agreement or pretty close to an agreement as to what the final form of that deed will look like. You probably, as you consider the motion, may want to consider conditions, and probably you want to look to Mark or to Mr. Welch as to what those conditions would be. But we're very happy to agree to, we talked about 6 to 9 inches of gravel of the same quality that would be used when we construct the road to provide for that extra stability that I said would be needed. Be a 3-inch loam cover, grass seeded. Will be no fencing of any kind. And if there's ever any damage to this area in the future, which would be the lawn basically, we're willing to put in the homeowners association documents that the homeowners association will take care of the restoration and reseeding. I don't think the town will use this a lot. They probably won't drive over it when the muddy season, so I don't anticipate there'll be a lot of damage. But a real big truck might leave some marks. But if that happens, the homeowners will be responsible for repairing any damage. That's really all I have. This was a condition imposed by the planning board. It's a good idea. It's the best place to take care of the new sewage from these 10 homes. You've got a large transmission line just to the rear of where the cul-de-sac will end up. Makes all kinds of sense. Eliminates the need for a lift station, and we're happy to meet the conditions that the DPW have asked us to meet. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And just a deviation, we'll go to Mr. Welch for his synopsis, then we'll go to the planning board rep, and then back to Mrs. Smith. Sir, comments?
I believe the council and Public Works and I are all in agreement. And my suggestion would be that you tentatively approve the easement and the documents that need to be completed and drafted, and sent back to the board for signature and for a formal approval by vote of the board.
As we go forward, we'll maintain that verbiage for any motion. Mr. Griffin? No. Okay. Thank you, sir. Selectman Wilson?
Is this a current map, Henry?
It's
Because
based-
it seems to me that when I've watched and observed the discussions, that the cul-de-sac looks pretty close right here. Did you make an adjustment to that? The lady who, Miss Valerie Gran?
Yeah, you'll have to kind of across the plans and then realize that my poster board was left at my office, so this would stay up here.
Because I don't think I see a date on here.
It's still close, but it's been moved.
Well, that's
Mary Louise.
why I wondered.
Originally, the right-of-way was up to
The property line.
striking,
Yep.
the property line. The new documents are based upon the revised plans, which has shifted it away.
So I'm not seeing that on this, but I
think
literally,
you are, but it's
I'm
such a
not the
smaller scale.
best person to read
Just look at the
plans.
date, Henry, on the plan. That may be the first
Yeah.
version.
You'll see right here, Mary Louise,
Yeah.
that there is a separation between it.
Okay.
Whereas before, it was
I was looking
directly-
for the date, Steve, but I couldn't, it
Yeah,
didn't
I-
jump.
30th.
Yeah, I included that simply to give the board a sense about where this thing was, and
Yeah, the final revision date would be in that block, Mary Louise, and it's 12/10.
Okay.
And it was moved away.
Oh, I see, over
and
here,
The
gotcha.
planning board instructed that heavy planting be made along the property lines so it would screen that area.
That's exactly right.
I watched all that, and this road slopes down from Winnicott into the backland, actually, behind in Brad Street Road. This is probably not relevant, but I have a problem, and I don't understand how planning and zoning is working these things. But we're going to end up with a neighborhood that exists already, specifically Sandman Road, where you have one lot wide with a road on each side. Is that correct?
I'm not.
Well, the
recalling-
house is to the west on Sandman Road. This is one lot deep, is it not?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm astonished that we're allowing that.
Okay, can I, just as a point of order?
Well, I
know,
I'm
and
just trying to.
I just want to,
Okay.
council and these parties have come prepared for
Okay.
Alpha and 1 and 2, and the board is, so I take that. Are there questions on the request for acceptance of sewer easement?
And lot 5, who's going to police lot 5 and make sure the owner of lot 5? I have this question every time I see a development. Who's going to make sure that the owner of lot 5 is living up to the requirements? And who would want to buy a property where they'd have to do that?
well,
I know I'm mean, but I
well, no,
I
you're
just
not
got a
mean.
question.
It's a valid question, because a lot of folks are property are encumbered by duties that they don't always fulfill.
Right.
Mark has suggested that we place as a condition, I believe, and he can speak for himself, that or perhaps it was Chris, that in the event the homeowner fails to do that, mow the property or starts planting trees or moving garden sheds into the right-of-way, that the town would have the right to do it. Beyond that,
And no guarantees in life.
no, but if
I
you have
agree with you.
if you have a
Steve.
right-of-way, you have a right-of-way, and
Yeah. You have a lot of wet down here. Now, I see the infiltration basin, but you have existing properties, and of course, the rear end of Headman Avenue is showing on here, which is wet now anyway. How comfortable, Henry, as an engineer, are you that we're not going to have spillover washing over into Brad Street Road and Headman? Poor
Well,
Henry.
I didn't know that we were here for an engineering discussion, but
Oh.
if I'm allowed,
Well, I
Well,
apologize.
I would
for that.
I would simply like to speak to agenda items and not extrapolate
All
and
right. Well,
get into
whatever.
planning board issues. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir. Sir.
No, I think anytime we can do without a lift station, I think it makes sense. I think it's, lift stations over time can cost a lot of money, and I think this is a good way to make sure that stuff flows downhill and instead of trying to pump it up.
couldn't have said it better.
And just so you know, Chris was very good with his time and sat on the PRC, obviously, and we worked with the planning board and him to design this in a way that was satisfactory to the department.
Well, thank you. Mr. Whittle.
Yeah, if the planning board and Chris, the DPW's on board, and the town manager's on board, I'm on board.
Thank you. And Mr. Gerald, do you want to say something?
In case there were any questions, Chris is here to answer them about the details of the easement and what changes have been made actually since the memo from the manager, which does have a motion in it. I can reword the motion.
Would you please word the motion for us, sir?
Sure. I move to accept the sewer easement offered by the developer herein involved under RSA 149I:2 on the conditions that the developer, number 1, grade the sewer easement in accordance with the latest grading plan dated December 10, 2014. 2, comply with the terms set forth in Chris Jacobs' memorandum dated December 19, 2014, with the exception that there would be no gate required to be installed, that there would also be 3 inches of loam and grass seed on top of the 6 inches to 9 inches of gravel, which, if damaged, the homeowners association would pay to restore and reseed. And 3, to include language requested by Chris Jacobs within the sewer easement deed and in the warranty deed for Lot 5 as appropriate. And also, we're going to be needing to add something to the homeowners association documents regarding that language about reseeding and restoring. Also, I suspect to the deed, to the homeowners association documents, we'd be adding that another reservation in the deed to Lot 5 would be an easement to the homeowners association to perform that very function on the sewer easement. And number 4 is to position the new sewer line as far away from the house, which you see on the grading plan, as possible, while still allowing for all maintenance work to the line to occur within the 20-foot width. Chris has reminded me that there does need to be some width on the other side of the line because of having the trenching equipment and OSHA requirements. So it couldn't be the full 20 feet away on the furthest side of the 20-foot easement.
I'll make that motion.
Could we?
Second.
Chris Jacobs.
I don't think we need to hear from
Well,
Chris Jacobs.
I have a question, because I'm looking at this and I'm seeing what I think is the end of this line westward going across. Do we already have an existing easement that's going across a Sandlin Road property owner's property, I think? Could I ask
Yes,
about
ma'am,
the
you
easement?
certainly can. Just come up.
For the record, Chris Jacobs. Yes,
Right here, Chris?
yes, we currently have the Scott property, a cross-country easement that eventually goes over towards Hedman that we currently maintain. We've gone down through there in the last year and we call it the brush hog and taken out all the vegetation. In the last 3 years, I don't want the board to get the sense that this is this request, if you will, for more permanent access within the sewer easement is new. It's really the way it should be done. We only have enough time, we barely have enough time to walk all the sewer easements that we have. It's important that we walk them on a yearly basis. The crews are out doing it now when it's not raining. For the purpose of make sure that the manholes are still secured. We pop the manholes, we check the flow, we make sure that, like it's happened to me before, nobody threw a bicycle down the sewer manhole. So stranger things have happened. So that's why we go and do these kinds of checks. So that's it really is. I was asked earlier today how often will we go down this easement. I said we'll probably walk down it yearly, and every third year maintain, go down, jet the lines, whatever. But that's really what we need it for.
But Chris, help me out, because the properties on each side here, is this going out to Lock Road?
It is.
And you actually can access that, there is an easement there for the property owner?
We actually came in through Hedman this last time. There again, another green project, and before they developed the house lot, we came in off of Hedman and did our work.
Okay, because I don't see it going up by Hedman on this, but it looks like it's coming straight across and into
Right.
the east and west properties.
Yes, it is.
Where does it go over here?
That's where Hedman is, right where your finger is. About right in there.
Oh, well, Hedman's, okay, over that way. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Further questions for the director from the board? Seeing none. We have a motion. What do you would like to say, sir?
Oh, just so you know,
Yeah.
there is a sewer easement that runs across there, but the town doesn't have an easement. They've used it, and they have a prescriptive easement, but part of this process is that we've officially drafted language of meets and bounds so that we can give that easement to the town as well. Out of the kindness of that lady's father, 40 or 50 years ago,
Yeah.
he allowed the town, without any cost, to put the town's sewer
Okay.
across the property.
So you're memorializing the easement?
That's correct.
Making it official, okay.
We have a motion. We have a motion by Griffin and Bridle a second. All those in favor?
I'm going to
4.
abstain.
And Selectman Woolsey is abstaining. And yes, Mr. Giroux, what would you like to add?
Henry has just reminded me that apparently we don't have a deed to the back easement, Henry.
Mhm.
There will be one for that.
There is. I believe that's been drafted and supplied.
Not by me, it isn't.
It needs to be, because that was one of Chris's points in the planning board decision.
It is or it isn't?
It needs to be. That was part of the planning board condition, that be, an easement be drafted.
At least for this subject property, the Scott Market.
All right. So I guess So that this can be done without needing to come back to the board on this point, if we might also add that the back, so-called back easement that shows on the plan would also be the subject of a deed.
And we would incorporate that into your motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we'll amend that motion. Can we get a motion again with that amended motion from Griffin?
Second.
Vital second. No further discussion. Seeing all those in favor? 4.
I'm abstaining.
Selectman Woolsey's abstained.
Yeah, and thanks to the voters for adopting RSA 149I at the last
Yes.
town meeting, because this gives this board the ability, without having to go through the much more lengthy process, to accept sewer easements.
Thank you,
That helps a
Counselor.
great
Thank you,
deal.
Steve.
So
Mr. Green.
the other two aspects are now the streetlights and hydrants.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ellis, back to you, sir.
Yeah, the second item on the appointment, other matters relating to a decision by the Board of Selectmen. I had expected to address the issues of financial responsibility for the streetlights and for the hydrant that will be required for this new subdivision. I'm not quite sure what is meant by a decision by the board. If the board has made some decision relative to these matters, maybe it would be more helpful if we knew about what that was before I went any further. I'm not sure what that meant, other matters relating to a decision.
Let's find out. Mr. Lynch, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, we notified the planning board some time ago that when they have subdivisions that involve streetlights or hydrants, that they need to come to the selectmen, because those all require appropriations from the general taxation of the town. And the selectmen should be approving those and incorporating them within the necessary budget and expenses of the community. The planning board has refused to do that. So we've asked that they would ask the developers to come to the town and ask for that, since the planning board doesn't want to do it.
Okay.
I believe in this particular case, this was addressed but never voted on.
I believe Henry did come to the
He
board.
did, but the board never took a vote. And I agree with one of our selectmen that says the hydrant's essential. It is. We've got a number of houses down there, and it's just too far to lay a hose from Winnicott Road to get to those houses. So I've looked at the hydrant location. I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with streetlights, because this is an underground distribution system, and I've not seen how the underground distribution system is structured to power those lights. If it's powered on a separate circuit off the head transformer of the road, then if that should fail, this line's too light to Kenetron it to determine where the failure is. It would require us to dig up the entire street, the entire length of the street lighting system underground, in order to find the failure. As far as I know, none of the underground systems in town have been equipped with a conduit, so you can't backpull it. And you can't put a new hydrant, you can't put a new wire in. I haven't seen any of those plans. We get the plans after the planning board has approved the wiring, and we don't often see any information how those are structured. But the town is responsible for the circuit as well as the light and the pole. My concern is that you could be spending, and I was in the electrical business for 21 years, municipal light, you could be spending $20, $30, $50, or $100,000 to replace one of these systems on a single subdivision, depending on how it's structured. And I don't want the town to be obligated to do that. I'd like the town to be obligated for the streetlights in a way, but I don't want to be obligated to repair the wiring in another way. And they're integral to each other, so I don't know how to accomplish that. And a couple of the other subdivisions in town, the planning board has requested that the subdividers or the owners of property be required to put post lights out at the end of their driveways or sidewalks or front walks or whatever. That may be the relief mechanism here. It's an unknown fact that it's a known fact that these systems will fail, and they would have to be replaced sometime in the future. I don't want to have to, I won't be here, but I don't want my successor to have to sit here in front of the Board of Selectmen at the town meeting and ask for tens of thousands of dollars to do that work. I think that's something the taxpayers shouldn't have to perform. So that's why I'm opposed to underground systems for street lightings. And I know the subdivision has to be underground because the planning board required.
If I could, just so that, and pardon the pun, but you have a disconnect or a short in your system. The regulations require that streetlights be designed into any new roadways. We showed them on the plan originally because that's what was required. Anything within the planning board regulations, we could ask for a waiver. At the PRC asked us to remove the streetlights because the town really wasn't interested in them. So we designed them per the regs. The PRC had us remove them. We went to the planning board, and the planning board said, we don't care what the PRC said. We want the streetlights. So we had to add them back in. Now we're at a position that the Board of Selectmen, and certainly the town manager, and rightly so, doesn't want the streetlights. The developer never wanted the streetlights, and he would favor more attractive lamps that illuminate the driveways that look more attractive. They're not going to blow out anything, and the town isn't responsibility at all to repair if they fail or pay for the electricity to light them. So it was never his position to do it in the first place.
Let me kind of back up just a little bit. And I understand what happened in the PRC and with the planning board and so on and so forth. And they do have that in their regulations. However, they can't obligate the town to appropriate money. And that's where the real fine comes later on, not now, but sometime in the future. Even though we've asked the planning board not to do that, they have a right to say that there has to be on the plan. The point, in fact, is that when the road comes for acceptance, the selectmen have three choices. To either accept the road as it is, to accept the road without street lighting, or not to accept the road. And of course, there's an alternate to that too, and that is that the homeowners association could take responsibility for the street light system. That's a special sort of side deal. That's not very economical for them. They're going to pay the same amount of money the town would to fix the system, and that's very expensive, and I just don't think we should be saddling homeowners with that expense. Post lamps are fine, as long as they illuminate properly and they're maintained properly. And they can be installed with conduit into the individual homes, which are not going to be far away from the roadway.
Would this board support a waiver request if we were to go back to the planning board and ask them to remove that
I don't think it's a request for a waiver. The planning board doesn't control this function because the selectmen control three things. They control the acceptance of the road, the appropriation of funds, and the approval of the construction.
I guess I understand that, sir, but if it's within their regulations and required as part of the design, the only relief that we have is to seek and be granted a waiver for their removal.
I understand that, but if you are granted, if you are not granted the waiver, the town will be moving to accept the street without the lights.
Understood, and that's why we're saying we don't think that it makes sense.
May I just bring up our eminent Esquire, Mr. Gerald, if you have a way forward for us this evening on this specific, particular instance of lighting?
Well, the planning board actually acted denying the waiver that was requested of them without knowing exactly what the selectmen would do. The selectmen, if the selectmen vote tonight not to accept the street lights, and therefore doing as the manager suggests, and when we accept the road, it would exclude the street lights as we've done in other situations, then the developer with that in hand can go to the planning board and say, we ask that the site plan be amended not to include that.
Okay.
And I would just like to go on record that I explained this to the planning board, but
Yeah, I know you
it
did.
didn't seem to matter.
Fell on deaf ears, shall we say.
And if we can, and I just want to stay with the attorneys for a second, Mary Louise, come right back to you. So, Mr. Rails, are you on board with?
That would certainly give us an answer, some ammunition, and all we're trying to do is
Finish.
record this, get the thing approved, and we already closed it, we just haven't recorded anything.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Scott's got to do her Christmas shopping yet.
She sounds like she's in the same boat I'm in.
The actual plan that would be recorded does not show either the street lights or the hydrant.
The Mylar.
So the recording of the plan would not be held up by that
Thank you.
point.
So, Mrs. Scott, there's hope for your Christmas shopping. Selectman Wilson.
This may be silly, but I can't help but think of it when I'm sitting here. If you're going to dispense with street lights, keeping in mind that you have a single lot progression along Sandburn. They've got street lights in Sandburn. If you go with street lighting, I would wonder how you would direct it, like we had for the recreation department, where the lights were directed to not intrude on adjacent properties.
Well,
If you go with lights at all, or if you're going to have post lights at the end of everybody's driveway, how do you know people are going to turn the lights on when it gets dark?
Okay, got that. Got
Well,
the,
I mean, it's.
no, we've
it's
got
a
that,
mess.
and those are rhetorical questions and kind of questions of taste. So we've got the legal opinion here. Is there a motion, Mr. Gerald, that Mr. L supports that is in concurrence with the town manager, the land post?
Yeah, it would be a motion not to accept the street lighting, and therefore, if it is to be part of the development, it would be the responsibility of the homeowners association unless the planning board amends the site plan.
I
But
think
do we have to include the hydrant in there too?
Actually, the hydrant, as I understand it, is something you're going to be accepting if you take the manager's recommendation.
I would recommend you do that because the homeowners association is going to pay 4 times what we pay for the hydrant.
Right.
it sounded to me like some of the people that lived in the adjacent neighborhoods would have rather not have the streetlights too.
Well, and they're all overhead. They're overhead construction, so it's a lot different. Those can be
Yeah.
taken down anytime we want.
Right.
I want to be clear, understood that when the hydrant is installed, the installation charge is paid by the developer.
Right.
What we're really talking about here is the ongoing $1,835.16 per hydrant that our taxpayers pay to Aquarians.
Thank you. So there's been a motion formed by council, and Mr. Griffin makes that motion. A second? Mr. Bridle? All those in favor?
How much did you say the hydrant?
18.
$1,835.16
And let's clear this vote, Rick.
and climbing.
For the motion.
I'm going to abstain.
Mrs. Woolsey's abstaining, so that's 4, 1 abstention, and now,
So that's for every hydrant in town per year.
Correct.
About $500,000.
It's not based on water capacity, it's based on the availability of water.
Right.
That's the current
I just
rate.
wanted to, I figured it was something like that. I was just wondering exactly. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Current rate.
Set by the
They change.
Public Utilities Committee.
It's just a little under 5%.
No, but I mean,
And
the
so
per
would you,
hydrant rate changes.
Yes.
Would you, Fred, would you recommend a separate motion to accept the ongoing expense of the hydrant
Yes, I would, yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Bridle, Woodell,
once installed?
all those in favor? 4, Mrs. Woolsey,
Abstaining.
and Woolsey abstains, 4, 1 abstention in favor.
I have one more
What was yours?
collateral issue. There's been a suggestion that note 4 on the existing plan may require some amendment. We don't think it needs to be amended. We think it's clear that the town has a right but not a duty, but I'd rather hear from you folks tonight. And I'd be happy to read it if that would help.
Yeah.
Okay. The homeowners association shall be responsible for maintaining the drainage areas located on lots 5, 6, and 7. However, the big but, the town of Hampton shall have the right to access, inspect, and repair these areas as necessary. I think there was a suggestion from some quarter that might somehow give someone an idea that the town had a duty. But I would just like to float it while I have you all here as to whether or not that's really a concern of the town.
It is, Mr. Chairman. We have maintained that on drainage systems, particularly ponds, retention ponds and so forth, that we didn't wish to maintain those. We have no appropriation to do it. We have no equipment to do it. We have to issue a contract, and a contractor for them to do that work. It seems a little unfair to the taxpayer, and we have asked that those not be allowed to be placed into the requirements on a subdivision, that the homeowners association or the owner of private property should be required to maintain. Now, that said, if they did not, we want the right to inspect periodically, so if they do not and something happens, that we can always force them to fix it. Because we don't want a situation further downstream that's going to hurt somebody.
And I guess that was our point, that we wanted to give you the hammer to be able to hit somebody in the head with. My last conversation with you, Mr. Welch, was that you wanted us to simply leave the note as it was, but to remove the word repair.
Exactly.
So everything else except for the word repair.
Yeah. That would absolve us from any question about whether or not we have an obligation to repair it.
One of the requirements of the planning board was that town council and DPW get the language of the drainage easement, which is separate from the sewer easement, to approve its language. Actually, the town is not being given an easement in an easement deed.
Right.
This note is all that addresses that.
It's a catch-22, and I think council's right. It's just one of those things that's sort of sitting out there that's sort of nebulous, and I wouldn't want to have to spend 6 months in court trying to figure out whether or not we have to or we don't have to. That doesn't seem very sensible to me. It does say repair. I think that gives everybody the obligation or the impression that we need to be prepared to repair anything that goes wrong with that facility. And I know the town doesn't have either the money, equipment, or manpower to do it.
But maybe on paper, if we were going to have the right to access and inspect, we might want at least a limited deed for that purpose. But it's up to you.
Either some right to pass and repass, I think, for inspection purposes for the town. I think that's essential. I mean, we can always go get an administrative search warrant because they're required to do this, but I think that's a lot of gobbledygook, and I'm not sure the courts are going to be very happy with that idea. So.
Steve, could that be done in a reservation to the deed to the individual lots on which the drainage easement is located?
Perhaps we could reserve to the town the right to, and then use the language. Yeah, perhaps we could do it that way.
Access and inspect.
As simply as possible. We don't need to get very involved with this.
Let me just ask you a question, Mr. Reynolds. Do you need a couple of minutes to do a little sidebar and inform this, or are you all set?
I really don't think so.
Think you're rushing something, and
No,
you can
I don't
come back
think
on the...
so.
Okay.
What we're trying, as I said, what we're trying to do is move the ball forward here. And Henry just reminded me, we've had this issue floating around, and when I've got you all here, no better time to ask all the questions. So, yeah, I think we probably could handle it that way.
It's sort of something that might float into that other process of 6 weeks that we don't want to.
We don't want to go there.
Could we wait to see the actual language and work on this the first week in January?
I don't think that they're talking about actually having an easement or something of that nature, but simply putting a requirement on that particular piece of property as to what can and cannot be done.
We're gonna do, the developer's gonna do a deed to the homeowners association of a drainage easement over lots 5, 6, and 7, where this drainage structure will be located. That deed, the developer owns the whole. That deed can reserve certain rights, so we could reserve, in effect, an access easement in favor of the town to and Mark will give me the language, inspect, but not
Inspect and...
Not maintain.
Access
I mean,
and inspect.
I mean, you folks, if I was concerned at all that this was going to obligate the town, I would run from it. I wouldn't want anything to do with it. I'd, put my bag over my head, and I don't know. I don't want any rights. I'm just going to drive by, but I'm never going down there, right? But we can.
So
do
it seems like a simple issue. Is there a motion to frame for this that addresses that? How is this going forward to reach fruition?
Well,
I don't want to see language crafted on the spot, quite frankly.
Well, there's a full board here. What you want
Oh, that's
sometimes is
fine.
not
I
what we
think it's
get.
an idea we're talking about.
if Attorney Ells will amend the description of what the homeowners association gets and put something in the deeds to lots 5, 6, and 7 that reserves an ability on the part of the town to access and inspect the drainage easement to see if the homeowners association is doing its job. I think that would be
Yeah,
sufficient.
I just think if I reserve the grant of the easement to maintain the drainage easement, if I reserve in that deed, I don't think I have to go to the next level of going to lots 5, 6, and 7, because they're all part of the whole. And on day one, his LLC will own the whole thing. He'll deed out certain things and hold back certain things. So when you buy lot 6, you're already going to be burdened by that, just like lot 1 and lot 2 are going to be burdened. I think that will work. And that would certainly be the easiest, simplest way to do it.
In the homeowners association documents?
Yes, in the deed to the homeowners association, the drainage easement to the homeowners association. And maybe we can throw a paragraph in the homeowners association, bylaws.
Yeah.
But I think we can certainly do it that way.
Well, we need a motion so that can be granted and you can carry on with your business. If not, then it's just going to be a bunch of people talking.
So it's a motion that the ability of the town to access and inspect the drainage easement for compliance with maintenance requirements be put in as a reservation in the deed to the homeowners association.
From the developer, is that
From the
correct?
developer.
Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Griffin, Waddell, all those in favor? 4, Selectman Woolsey is abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas all.
Merry Christmas. See you, Henry.
Happy holidays.
Roman 6, Town Manager's Report. Sir.
Almost all talked out. I have forwarded to the board some information regarding fees for the fire department. I believe you've all received it.
Yep.
We'll need to draft a warrant article in that light to amend the current fire code ordinance to bring the ordinance into line with the statute so the fee that's contained in that ordinance can be amended by the selectmen in accordance with prior town meeting vote. Let me just expound for just a second. There is a fee requirement in the ordinance with regards to the creation and inspection of sprinkler systems
Yep.
and standpipes. That fee is $40. That's an ancient fee. It needs to be brought back up to what the costs are to do that function. I've got the fire department researching that. But those fees are set by an act of the Board of Selectmen after a public hearing in accordance with RSA 41:9-A. And so we should take it out of the ordinance and put it under that statute so that it can be done on a regular basis so those fees can be kept current as time goes along.
Good.
That's what that's all about. The Selectman's Office has received a petition for a warrant article for a $5,000 appropriation that will assist in bringing the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall to Hampton Beach. And in that light, I just want to remind everybody who might be listening that the last day to submit petition warrant articles is January 13th, 5 p.m. in the Selectman's office here in Town Hall. The Town Hall will be closed tomorrow. That's Tuesday, December 23rd, from noon to 1:30 p.m. The employees have their annual scheduled Christmas party at that time. Certainly, if there's emergencies, we will be here. Tonight will be the last scheduled meeting of the Board of Selectmen for this year, subject to emergencies that may be called. The next regular scheduled meeting for the board will be on January 5th, 2015. I just want to, along with everybody else, extend my best wishes for everybody for the holiday season and wish a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everybody, and a safe Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well done and fantastic job this calendar year. Selectman Woolsey, questions for the town manager?
I would like to make you aware that there are impediments on sidewalks uptown that could potentially impede plowing, etc. There's one store that closed that has planter boxes outside on the sidewalk. There's a property in the old shoe building that's got a signboard impeding the sidewalk and benches and all sorts of stuff. Some of you might take a little walk around uptown
We'll have it inspected tomorrow morning.
before the snow flies.
Yep.
I don't know where it's appropriate to put this in, but maybe you'll keep track of it for us. I'd like the board annual report picture to be a joint picture like we did last year, if that's agreeable with everyone, instead of individual pictures that were done in the past. I just want to confirm that the CRS that Jennifer Gilbert has addressed in her email will be satisfied. The community rating system, basically application or intent to do the work, will be satisfied by Article 1 that the zoning board is proposing?
We must adopt Article 1 or we cannot adopt that program.
Okay, and then we would meet with whoever is responsible.
And that's the responsibility for that is between the Planning Board and Conservation Commission, and I believe they are actively acting.
Okay, so Article 1 is critical for the community, basically.
Actually, if the amendments to Article 1 are not passed, then there will be no insurance, flood insurance for anybody in town, because it will not comply with the statutory requirements.
And I just wanted to remind, I guess, us, because the money is involved, and I think this has been lacking the last couple of years in the annual report, I would like to see the most recent trustees of the trust funds audit with the letter of findings and recommendations. I think that should always be part of the annual report. And I appreciate your help all year long. And are we mentioning anything about the two state aid grants, water pollution? The two representatives are presenting in Concord, the 518 and 687, to try to help. The NHMA sent us the memo to try to get support for those.
We're not actively on the list of people who are to be cut for those particular aids. However,
cut everything else.
Well, I'll call to the board's attention the fact that the last conversation I had with a member of the General Court indicated that there's some question about whether or not the state government has a deficit of $80 million.
Well, who did that?
It wasn't me.
Well, you've been asking that question.
And they apparently are going to be rescinding the authority to pay some of those grants in the legislative process. As you perhaps know, those grants are due the cities and towns, they're due by appropriation in each biennium. And if it's not appropriated, the state cannot pay them. So there's some question as to how much of that money will come out of those grants. It may be all of it, or may be a portion of it. There's at least 6 towns that were listed the other day that were going to be cut from their appropriation. There may be more depending on how much money they need. And as you know, they have done that before. They have cut us out for a number of years and on a number of different grants that we're entitled to collect. But right now, we're not on the list. If we should get in the list, you have to come see me in Concord, because I'm going to be down there yelling and screaming.
You've been on every other list, so what the heck.
Hopefully we don't get on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Do we need a motion for those warrant articles? Do we have to?
No, they're private petitions.
They're private petitions.
They're private petitions.
We don't have to.
No.
There's no.
They must go on.
Yes, they have to go on by statute. There is an appropriation in that particular warrant article for $5,000, so the selectmen will need to make a recommendation when we get to recommendations on warrant articles.
All right, so we'll do that at a later date.
And if the wording is not correct, that's the problem of the petitioners.
That's correct.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Selectman Waddell.
Set.
Wonderful, thank you. Mr. Welch, I have no questions.
Thank
Roman
you,
7, new business. 1, collective bargaining. I had mentioned that earlier under community announcements, so that could be stated in the presence of the fire department. And I just would like to thank the assistant town manager, Jamie Sullivan, for the extraordinary job that he did bringing that
Absolutely.
TA, tentative agreement, to fruition. And he really did an extraordinary job along with town council under Mr. Welch's leadership. And the board, questions on 1, collective bargaining or statements, ratification? Selectman Wilson?
No, we're going to address that at our next meeting after the unions are ratified, I believe.
I just didn't know if anyone had any further comments.
No?
I think it may have been left that the board would authorize the chairman to sign tentative agreement. No?
Well, no, I think we're moving quite along without your comments right now, Councilor. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'd just like to mention on the collective bargaining thing that the town saved a lot of money, didn't they, by not having outside counsel?
That's
$17,000.
Mr. Welch, do you want to elaborate on that and how that staff function happened?
This board made a conscious decision that they would assign a member of the board, who happened to be the chairman at the time, along with the assistant town manager, with the assistance of town council and myself, on the outside, to negotiate the contract and the agreement with the two fire department units, 2664 and 3017. And that was done, I believe it was 3 meetings, which I think is a record for this town.
Yeah.
And the contracts were TA'd. They were TA'd last week. And they're subject to final wording, which the board needs to see. They have a general idea of what the agreement is, but they need to see it in writing with the wording describing what was going on. And then they will take a ratification vote at their next meeting, which is the 5th of January. Or is it the 12th? 5th.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, Selectman Odell. Thank you, Mr. Welch. And moving on to number 2, acceptance of quitclaim deed for Salt Marsh Land, tax map 201, lot 3, and to abate the taxes paid in 2014.
I will so move.
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Number 3, 2015 JOP. Red. Mr. Welch.
I wish that was a meal description, JOP, but it's not. We met with the state 2 weeks ago, and as you know, the last JOP was signed.
Late.
It was signed after the close of the beach in September, as far as the state's concerned, and really we're concerned because it was after the Seafood Festival. We had identified a major problem in the JOP, and that was with the collection and subsequent removal of lobster traps. We agreed with the state that entire section was to be removed from the JOP. They had indicated in the prior JOP that they would put a dumpster at the town facility, and all the lobster traps would be put in there. When it was full, they would remove it. They never did that. We've asked them to remove the lobster traps that are there, and they're in the process of doing that. There's not a lot of them, but they are in the process of doing that. And we asked them, since we couldn't seem to get this done, to simply remove this from the JOP. That's the only change that they agreed to in the JOP. Other than that, it's before you for your comments and whether or not you wish to approve it.
Thank you. Ma'am?
One of my favorite topics.
Subjects.
Yes. Page 2B, DRED responsibilities. DRED will provide and maintain refuse and recycling receptacles on the east side of Ocean Boulevard, as shown in Table 1. I want to see in this, and I'm not kidding, mandatory recycling, and I don't care what they say. I'm tired of seeing the commingled recycling, but the commingled waste. We get money for the taxpayers of this town from the recycling. I have seen in those dreadful piles of beach raking plenty of recyclable items that could have been salvaged. The state of New Hampshire is going to have to police its beach. They're going to have to hire some nice young people in college or high school to go down there, whatever they have to do. We cannot accept commingled waste anymore. I want to see what's required of the Hampton residents. I don't commingle my waste. I have the 2 separate carts, and I think we should refuse to accept waste, any waste at all, period, from the state of New Hampshire, unless they aggressively recycle. And I mean that sincerely. They have a heck of a nerve. If we're going to take that, you can take my recycling in my car and take it right up to wherever it's going, and we should be able to do the same with the state. It's outrageous what they've allowed on that beach. Page 3. No materials from outside the corporate boundaries of the town of Hampton shall be brought to or placed in the facility by DRED employees, etc. I don't know how we're monitoring this, but I have complaints from time to time that material is coming in from out of the community. I don't know how we police that or enforce it, but it's a concern of mine. Page 4, second paragraph under A, dread responsibilities. Raking materials may be taken by designated dread employees or contractors to the town's facility during hours when the facility is open and after hours, and placed in covered dumpsters provided by dread for this purpose. Dread shall routinely dispose of the dumpster materials off-site at no cost to the town. Why doesn't the state put the dumpsters on their own property? And once again, there is a tremendous amount of commingled waste and recycling in those piles. I saw them. I think some of you saw them. Did you ever go down there and take a look at that? Those piles were disgusting. And I don't see that we should have to entertain any of that and take up space in our facility. The town shall allow dread access through the town-owned Bicentennial Park property at no cost to dread. That's B, town responsibilities. For the purpose of enabling dread to enter its North Beach property with dread's beach cleaning equipment to conduct beach cleaning and for other maintenance equipment, the town has the right to prohibit all access during winter or during storms. The town shall allow dread to place at the facility in a location determined by the town 2 30-yard dumpsters with a ramp for the collection of beach raking materials. I'll leave it to Fred's judgment as to whether that is appropriate, but that caught my eye. My big thing with this year is recycling and waste. Recycling and waste. And the state of New Hampshire had better start enforcing. They told us last year they had a recycling policy. Baloney. Baloney. If they're going to bring things into our transfer station, and I object to that in principle entirely, they're going to bring it in, they better be segregating the recyclables from the waste or else. There.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir.
Fred, except for the issues that you mentioned, do you have any problem with the JOP?
No.
And neither do I. I'm for how it is written.
I think we need to give it a test. We haven't tested what was amended, what we extensively amended it last year. We haven't done that, and we've been less than cordial with dread in getting some of these things administered. One of the reasons that the dumpsters are allowed in the transfer station is because they were placing them under windows of town residents, backed right up on the dread property, and there's no cover to them. People were depositing trash and garbage and everything else in them, and the people down on Epping Avenue were being just buried in seagulls. And of course, when the gulls pick the material up, they tend to drop it.
No.
But usually in someone's yard. It wasn't on state property, so we allowed them to take it down there with very strict stipulations. If they violate those, they're gone. It's as simple as that. We've told them that. But they've not been able to use it because the beach was closed after there was a sign. We want to see if it will work. They can't bring it there without the dumpsters. They have to be covered at all times. So we're willing to give it a try. I'm not sure it'll work. If it doesn't work, it'll be very short-lived because we'll order them off the property.
And I agree with Fred, and
What about recycling?
Okay, let me just stick with.
I'm for as it is written.
Okay. And is that a motion? As we go around the table for
Yes.
discussion? Okay, thank you, sir.
Fred, does this address any of the raking of Hampton town-owned beaches?
They do rake the beach. The portion that we own on the state beach, on the main part of the beach that's off the end of White's Island, they do rake that and maintain it. And we've required them to do that. And they have said that they will, and they have been doing it. So that's the area that they do. We do the area that's on the other side of the river, that's Town Beach. We no longer rely upon their vendor to clean that simply because he had so much to do on the regular beach, he just didn't show up some weeks. Sometimes it was several weeks.
I just know that's been a problem in the past for us is making sure our beaches stay clean, our town-owned beaches.
We've had no complaints since we hired this new vendor for Sun Valley. None.
And I think you're right. And as far as the recycling goes, we can talk to them and see about maybe some better signage down there and encourage them. But
the state recycling right now is 18 to 19%. Not that far below our own. The problem that they've got is that people leave trash on the beach. We're not allowed to affect that because we don't have any authority out there on the state beach. They refuse to give citations out to people who leave trash on the beach. Until they start doing that, that system's not going to change. In the meantime, that material we don't accept. It's got to go in the dumpster. It's got to leave our property. It's got to leave their property, and we're not paying a penny for it.
Okay.
So, and I wouldn't.
So it's not costing us.
No. Now, there is mixed recycling that goes into the trash barrels at the beach, and both the recycling barrel and the regular trash barrel. The only way to affect that is to put somebody there standing there where the barrels are.
Absolutely.
And they won't do that. And they will not go through the barrels. I honestly don't blame them. I wouldn't want to go through the garbage either.
We don't go
or
through
the diapers or anything else.
We don't go through the barrels on our side either.
We're not allowed to by law.
Okay. I think it's fine the way you've presented it.
Yeah, Fred, as long as you're happy with this, I'm happy. I agree that we have to push the state towards more recycling. How we get at that, I don't know. I think because, as you said, the dumpsters are there and they're not costing us any money. I think that's important. And I think it's important this year, if it's brand new, to see how it works and to try to work cooperatively with the state to get them to work with us and make this work so that it works for all of us.
They have a requirement under law to have an effective recycling program. They're at 18 to 19% now. That rose a couple of years ago from 2 and 3%. We were very forceful in telling them that they needed to implement that recycling program. It was one of those gobbledygook things that was in, shall I say, legalese, put together in Concord under some administrative regulation. And since then, they've been trying to perfect it and move it forward. And the recycling is picking up. They are more aggressive with it. But they need to become much more aggressive with it if it's going to improve. Yeah. They need to be up to our 30% minimum.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult when you have people come to the beach that you don't have control over. I mean, it's education. It's trying to get them to be better recyclers, better picking up their trash.
And they are,
and stuff.
actually. It's improved
Yeah,
a lot.
it has, yeah.
They're 10 points off our recycling rate for the town in most municipalities. There's a motion. There's a second.
I have a quick,
A second? Yeah, we'll come right back to you.
I'll second it.
Second by Waddell. Yes,
a
ma'am.
quick question. How come other communities keep the beaches clean? How do they do that?
Same way we're keeping Sun Valley clean.
Sun Valley is residential, and they don't have the slobs coming in there that we have leaving the debris.
I think that's uncalled for.
Yeah, let's, we've got, I don't want to talk about our visitors to the
It's a disgraceful
town.
situation.
There's a lot of people down there, and they're just trying to have fun.
A lot of good people down there, too.
Have fun and throw their trash
You
all
make
over
some
the
good
place.
points, but we're starting to go.
famous for being clean,
Lot of fun.
actually.
It is a five-star beach. Now, Mary Louise, you raised some good points on the recycling. You always want to upgrade that and push that skyward. But let's not get in the gutter on it. Call people that. There's a motion. All those in favor? That's 4. Selectman Wilson?
Absolutely opposed.
Opposed. Thank you. Roman 7, 4 and 5, we've got parking issues. First one is on 1st through 19th Street, and the second is Boar's Head and Place Cove. Mr. Wellstein and Mrs. Wilson.
Okay. Mrs. Woolsey asked me to place these on the agenda. The former chief of police and I had some discussions with several of the individuals who live down in the upper end of the numbered streets off of Ocean Boulevard last fall. Unfortunately, I ended up going on vacation, then going in the hospital for an extended period of time, and I was out of work. The intention here is to almost go street by street and have a meeting of the people who own property on those streets to find out what their problems are. We have a lot of complaints coming in from people down there, particularly on the upper end of the numbered streets. We have people who come surfing, and anywhere around 14th, 15th, 16th Street in that area. It's a long walk up to the lavatory at the other end of the beach. So what they do is they park their cars on these particular streets, and they zip into people's front yards and take their clothes off and go to the bathroom. I had a complaint from one gentleman who came to me, and the individual in question walked out in his front deck and his front porch, and somebody was urinating on it.
Wonderful.
And he yelled at them, and they told him in so many words, either shut up or pound you on the ground. Those things can't happen. That's not Hampton. One of the things that we had talked about, and we want to have some input from the residents down there, is whether or not some of these side streets, because of their narrowness, should be resident parking only on one side. Some of those streets, I think it's 18th and 19th Street, there's fire lanes on those streets, they're so narrow. Some of the others are just as bad. And I've had the fire department look at them, and they said, in most cases, we couldn't get the ambulance down the street if we wanted to. And I know I've had the chief of police look at it. Depending on how they're parked, there'd be difficulty getting cruisers down. So we'd like to, as this spring goes along, hold meetings with these folks and see what they want and bring those recommendations back to the board for your digestion or perhaps indigestion, depending on what they are, to see how you feel about what should be done.
Selectman Wilson.
Yeah, I feel for the people here. They're the innocent victims of tourism or whatever. And certainly at North Beach, tremendous problems of the same type that Fred is expressing. Private property owners should not have to be going out of their houses on their front lawns, picking up the detritus from these inconsiderate idiots who invade the town.
Just, if I
Well,
can
if-
just, no,
well,
no,
if they were doing it
let me,
in your
is- let
front
me,
yard,
is the
Mr.
chair,
Chairman.
let me use the chair, and I think that the entire board will back this up. Let's refrain from calling people idiots and slobs.
Well, if they were doing that in your front yard, you wouldn't be too happy,
If
let
we,
me tell you.
if we in
Or off
leadership can
your
refrain
porch.
from that, then we won't have interruptions from
But
you.
I'd like to get some feedback from the residents and see if we can set into place some type of serious regulations and have some real enforcement, get some real teeth into it. The public does not deserve to be treated that way. Those are private residences, and that's just dreadful, and the situation has gone on far too long. So this is basically an appeal to this board to set up public hearings after the first of the year in these neighborhoods and hear from those residents and figure out what on earth we do, because I think we need to have something in place before the season starts. We need to get going.
Sir.
Other boards have worked on this over and over again, and I don't think it's that easy, and I'm not necessarily in favor of changing any of these things. And about people doing things like what you just mentioned, I've had women Mrs. Wolseley's age going to the bathroom in my yard, and younger women, and all kinds of people. This is what it's like in Hampton, and probably a lot of other places. You can't control that. I find it hard to believe that that's a big problem down there where it's all out in the open. But at my spot, I go out and I think, oh, I wonder who's going into my parking lot. I look over, the lady's dropping her pants and going to the bathroom, and her husband's standing guard out. And I go, hey! And you should see what happens. This has happened for years. You can't control it.
Because it's your parking lot.
Cannot control of it. There's no way to control it, so you might as well forget about it.
Better do it.
I've watched it for 40 years,
I love it.
and it can't be controlled. It's kind of amusing most of the time.
Further comments, Mr. Griffin?
No, thank you.
Mr. Bridle?
Sounds like we're all getting in here in the gutter here. It is,
Rusty is speechless.
Well, the women are the ones that kill me, to be truthful.
Well, you haven't seen me down.
Okay, Mr. Bridle, Mr. Bridle, please.
Hopefully there's something that can be done with the parking down there. I mean, we need to have some relief from the people there. But we also have to remember that those are public roads. And the town, the other citizens from town have a right to park there too. And maybe we look at what Seabrook does over on their beach with the tags and stuff like that. But
Permitted parking.
the permitted parking, and but we got to look at it close. I know there's a lot of issues down there with who owns, where's the street actually lie, and go back to maybe the green line type of thing we had to do down the main part of the beach. I don't know if that's it, but I think the first start is to talk to the residents down there and find out actually if there is a problem and what the problem really is.
That's the key.
Mr. Waddell?
Yeah, I'm not quite the peeping Tom that Mr. Griffin is, but living right up at North Beach up there. I mean, when it's a really nice day, and the tide's low, and the beach gets really crowded, and people trying to find places to park, and a lot of the metered parking is a lot of taken up, and I agree with Rusty that there are public roads. I do think that there are some safety concerns, because I know myself
Yes.
living up there, if I turn down one of those numbered streets with cars all the way, it becomes a real issue on getting through, even in a small car.
Yeah.
So I think that needs to be looked at. But we are a tourist town. Tourists come here. They look for places to park. So I agree. We need to look at it with the residents. We need to, I haven't seen that many people using
Oh, I
it.
bet they're there behind your building.
I'm not looking. but I agree. We need to look into this issue and work on it, and it's not a simple issue. Yes. Thank you.
Nothing ventured, nothing
Mr. Waddell, you
gained.
can always follow me in my truck. I'm sure I'll get you through.
The board has spoken. We will schedule a public hearing as we approach spring into the next year for both parking issues, to include Boar's Head and Place Cove. We can incorporate those. There are myriad issues involving those two, and we, of course, want to hear from police and fire.
Excellent.
We'll go forward, and thank you for bringing that up, Selectman Wilson. Roman 7, number 6, appointment of Selectman Representative to the Conservation Commission.
I'll volunteer.
Okay. Let me just bring up the rationale for that. The Conservation Commission has been energetic. They're involved in land use. They're involved in planning board. They have just emailed us. They have reasserted a warrant article on Woodland Road to the dam, and we have no representative to that commission. Selectman Woolsey, your thoughts?
I'd be
Besides your
happy to
volunteer.
volunteer. I care very much about conservation, and they do a good job, and I'd like to participate.
Okay, thank you for that, sir.
I don't really see the need for it myself.
Okay. Selectman Bridle?
They do a lot of good work. I'm not opposed to a member being on there.
I'm not opposed to never being on it.
Wonderful. I will second that volunteerism from Selectman Wilson, that she be appointed the Selectman's representative to the Conservation Commission. Second?
Second.
Bridle, all those in favor?
I'll abstain.
You abstain? And that's 4 with 1 abstention. Selectman Wilson. Thank you, Selectman Wilson. Roman 8, old business draft warrant articles. Alpha, update warrant. Bravo, High Street, Lafayette Road drainage article, and amend the fire prevention ordinance article. Mr. Welch, could you lead us through this, please?
Just one thing, I believe that Mr. Waddell pointed out to me earlier this evening that he was briefing the warrant, and I believe he found something dealing with the trustees.
Yeah.
And you might want to explain that. I believe that the board had instructed us to take that off. I think it's there and there.
Was Article 34. And I'm trying to find my article.
Capital reserve funds, changes for banking or brokerage
34,
charges. I think that when I went to 34 and I looked at the title, I believe that's the statute that was passed this year that allows them to charge the capital reserve funds for their brokerage fees.
Right, but didn't it also include in there, let's see, the borrowing at 0%?
No, that was stripped out. According to the one I got, it's stripped out.
Oh,
Well, in any event, I agree with pulling that.
this one here is not the one, that reached
34
my
is-
mailbox today?
Is that different from what we've done?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if that's the one, because this is the one I just got in my mailbox
Okay.
today. So I just
I
wanted
don't
to
know how
make
that
sure.
got there.
Yeah.
This is the one I've got.
Huh, very interesting.
got, yeah.
I'm going to have to go chase it down because
This is dated
just double check it.
12/18. Yeah.
I think this was restricted solely to the ability of the trustees to charge the
Right.
individual funds for their actual
Yeah.
expenses
Yeah.
related to those funds. And I know the board had approved that, and I believe the other one the board had not approved.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
I will
I
check
agree.
that out and find out
Okay.
where that came from because it's a mystery to me.
Okay.
What was the other? Is there another
Um,
one?
Yeah, that was it for me.
We have the High Street Lafayette Road drainage warrant article that the board had requested me to put on the agenda for your meeting this evening. The total cost of that article is $449,156, of which $149,156 is offsetting revenue from the federal government. And they have already committed that to us. The wording's in there so that we can accept it. This takes the drainage starting at approximately Dearborn,
Yep.
down High Street to the corner of Lafayette Road, down past Morales, and then across through the drainage easement that runs down through the depot and out and down to the marsh. That area is subject to flooding. I believe we discussed at the last meeting the fact that in really violent rains, the water comes down off Dearborn and runs right into the buildings on the opposite side of the street.
Yeah.
We have numerous correspondence from the owner of those properties saying that he'd like to have that fixed, or he has suggested strongly that he may have to take further action to get it fixed by the town. So,
Thank you. Selectman Woolsey.
Fred, do you have any confidence in this figure? For this size project, I literally, I absolutely know it needs to be done. I don't want to see us go through this, have this on the warrant, have the public vote for it, and have us short.
this sum is based upon the last bidding we did. The engineer's estimate came in at half this price. The problem is that there's no place up there to store any of the material as they dig it. They have to put it in trucks and haul it away, and then haul material back in every time they dig a shovelful out. It's a very expensive proposition because, as you all know, High Street's very narrow there. There's a lot of traffic. It's a very complicated place to work. Do I have confidence in the figure? I have no idea what the individual contractors are going to come back for with the figure. I really don't.
I don't want to see this on the warrant.
Could be this,
uselessly.
could be more than this, or it could be less than
Okay,
this.
thank you. We've got Selectman Woolsey's comments on this. Selectman Griffin.
I don't have anything to say. Thank you.
I think we have to go with the best figures that we have, and the best figures we have are what was bidded previously. Obviously, we were too low last time, but if we have 149,000,
149, 156.
149,000 is going to be picked up by the federal government.
That's correct.
I think we'd be foolish not to put it on the warrant article. Let the people in town know what it is. You know, we have that street, that flooding. If we do nothing, it's not going to get any better by doing nothing. It's only going to get worse.
That is true.
And I would hate to see some of those properties damaged there any worse than they already have been. So I'd like to see it on the warrant article.
Selectman Woodall.
Yeah, it's a big number. It's worrisome. But if something major were to take place, if the road were to collapse, I mean, my thing is, how bad is the road? How bad is the drainage? How bad is the road?
The road's in fairly good condition. I don't think you're going to have a collapse there. The problem is that there's just too much water for the existing system. And when it comes as a freshet, a heavy downpour, it jumps the curb, runs down the sidewalk, and runs in the front doors of some of those businesses. And that, of course, is just really damaging to the property.
And in the last X amount of years, have we had a lot of damage at the different properties?
There have been various instances where damage has occurred.
And is there any chance of getting any other federal emergency management money or anything? I mean, are there any, have we explored?
Actually, no. The reason that this is in front of you tonight is because the money will expire in February. They have told us that if we put the warrant article in, if the board approves it, and it goes to town meeting and is not voted, that's fine. They'll hold the money till town meeting. If it's voted, the money will be committed. If it's not voted, the money will disappear and cannot come back. These funds are derived from prior emergency management efforts in New Hampshire. These are surplus funds that were not used but certified by the government, federal government, and they're apportioning those out so cities and towns with problems like ours that are caused by drainage and flooding and so forth can be remedied so they don't have to take action to fix these problems again in the future.
I guess it's up to the people. I mean, you put the warrant article on, if they want to vote it down, they vote it down. I mean, I just hate to see a whole bunch of money warrant articles and then have a lot of them voted down. But it's a serious situation. Yeah, I have no more questions.
Thank you. And Selectman Woolsey, you'd like to
One
weigh
quick
in. Yes, ma'am.
follow-up. If this goes on the warrant like this, and I still think it's undervalued, and it passes, we'll have the grant, but we won't have enough money to do it anyway. This has to go down Route 1, across, it has to go over behind Depot Square and way behind the drainage there in the railroad tracks, or where the old railroad was. It's a big project, and it's a tough project, going across Route 1, and that little narrow, I'm through it every day, High Street, and the road is deteriorating in front of the hardware store and Toby and Merrill, and even with the patching, it's all falling apart again.
Needs to be repaved, yeah.
So if we pass it, and they're sitting there waiting on us to pass it, and we don't have the money to do the whole project.
If the bids come in at more than the appropriation, we can't do it. We'll have to
Right.
notify them and the money will disappear.
Yeah,
Then that's what we'll do.
well,
You know, we can only go with what the best figures that we have, we've been given.
I don't think they're accurate.
They are a year old.
Yeah.
That's the best I can tell you.
All those in favor of the High Street Lafayette Road drainage in the amount of $449,156 with an offset from a government grant from the state of New Hampshire and the federal government, it's at $149,156 as we were prepared. Please raise your hand. All those opposed? Selectman Rules opposed. Selectmen support this by a vote of 4-1. Mr. Welch.
Amend the fire protection ordinance. This deals with the code, the town code, section 167-37, subsection B. The code says that there'll be a permit fee of $40 per structure. That relates to sprinkler and standpipe systems and their inspection and review. It wouldn't pay for a fraction of any of the buildings that we're putting up right now. We need to eliminate that, and the suggestion would be substitute therefore the words, permit fee shall be in accordance with fees set by the Board of Selectmen following a public hearing in accordance with the provisions of RSA 41-:91-A, as previously accepted by the town meeting. That's the method under which we set fees for all of our individual agencies in town. This is the only fee contained within the code for the fire department.
I will absolutely support that. I think it's excellent.
And is that a
Excellent.
motion, Selectman?
I will so move.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Unanimous. Roman 9, closing comments for the last meeting of the year.
To make it sound terminal. When is our next review, Mr. Manager, on the town warrant articles?
It would be January 5th now.
Okay, good.
Your next, and in fact, I've instructed the administrative assistant to continue the warrant articles on every agenda until such time as they close on the 13th.
Excellent. Okay, very, very nicely done. I want to thank the members of the board and the public, and wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And thank the manager for putting up with us.
Not much.
Thank you, ma'am. A
Pass
motion-
this around so signatures can be made.
Motion to adjourn at 2100
I'll make that motion.
by Mr. Griffin, Bridle second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Good night.
Don't go too fast.